Hey team, welcome back to the product channel. In today's video, we're gonna dive into a topic that seems to bring a lot of confusion. And that's the difference between a product manager, a project manager, and a program manager. So let's get to it. So first up, we have product management. And as a product manager, your primary focus is on the product itself. So you're responsible for defining the vision, the strategy, and the product roadmap. So you're going to be working with a lot of cross-functional teams like marketing, sales, design, and engineering to ensure that the product can deliver on the business objectives and the customer needs. And then you have 4 key responsibilities as a product manager. So your very first one is defining the product vision and the strategy. So that means you're going to need to set the long-term vision for the product that aligns with the business objectives. And then number 2, you're gonna need to gather, define, and prioritize those requirements. And you're gonna need to receive feedback from multiple avenues, market research, sales, design, engineering, a bunch of cross-functional teams to make sure that you're headed in the right direction for the organizational's business goals, if you will, but also the customer needs and their wants. And then you need to think about roadmap planning. So this is where you have your requirements, you have the vision and strategy, and you need to make sure that whatever you put on that roadmap is going to align with those business goals. Everything that you've worked up to this point. You have the business goals that need alignment and the user experience. And then lastly is the user experience, which you're going to go into the roadmap as well, but your whole goal is to enhance the user experience. So you're gonna be leveraging data, design, and customer feedback and research to make sure that you give that customer experience that will ultimately benefit the business and the customer as well. So in essence, product management is all about the what and why. What you're building and why it matters. So if you forget everything else, like the 4 responsibilities and then some, because there's always more responsibilities. But if you forget the core, just remember the what and why. What you're building and why it's important, why it matters. Now let's talk about project managers. They are all about execution. And a long time ago, I read in this book that they were the orchestra, behind a play, if you will. So what this means is that project managers are all about planning and executing and basically closing deadlines and making sure that those deadlines are closed within the time frame allotted. So this means that project managers, they're masters at execution and Gantt charts, but not at representing customers. Then you have 4 key responsibilities as a project manager. The first one is planning. So you're gonna need to define the scope, the objectives, and the timeline for each project. So being a planner as a project manager is your strong suit, because if you can't plan correctly, you can't execute correctly. So this is a huge responsibility. I'd put it number 1, obviously, for a project manager. And then you have resource management. So you need to make sure that you're allocating your resources effectively and managing the budget and coordinating with team members. I think as a product manager, you do profit and loss. I think that's actually makes you kind of a unicorn product manager at certain points. But as a project manager, when it comes to profit and loss, it is so important because they're all about timelines and managing budgets. So that's really important when you're dealing with resource management. And then you need to think about risk management. So what are the potential risks and identify possible opportunities where you can possibly go quicker or mitigate those risks and have a contingency plan in place. And then you need to think about monitoring and controlling, like the last responsibility, I think, from the core set. And you need to constantly figure out, are we on track? Where do we need to be? Who do we need to communicate with if we're not going to meet a deadline? but constantly monitoring and controlling the projects that you're on to make sure that you can execute and hit those deadlines is a huge thing for a project manager. So project management is all about how you're going to build for it, focusing on your timelines, your risk, and your resources. So it's not so much how the product is built, but how you're going to get the product to the finish line with the time allotted. So finally, we have program managers, and they manage multiple related projects so that they can ensure the organization's strategic goals. So what this means is they take a very high level view, and they're managing all these related projects and the interdependencies between them so that they can maximize those benefits to ensure, customer and business success. Then you have 4 key responsibilities of being a program manager. The first one is strategic planning. So you're going to need to make sure that the projects that you're managing in this program, they align with the company's strategic objectives. And then you're going to need to coordinate your projects. So all of these interdependencies between the projects, you need to make sure that they're still going to deliver on the company's goals. And then you need to think about the benefits realization behind it. How is what you're doing going to really benefit the organization as a whole? So then you have stakeholder management. And this is very important because they need to know that all objectives are met. And if there's any changes, that's where you step in as a program manager and you're like, okay, this is what we have going on. What do we need to do? In other words, program management is about overseeing multiple projects, managing those interdependencies between the two to make sure that the organizational objectives and goals are ultimately met. So let's summarize everything. So product managers focus on the vision, the strategy, and the user experience. So think about the what and why, what you're building and why it matters. Then you have your project managers, and they're all about planning, executing, and closing out projects within the time constraints given. So they're more of like the how and the when, how we're gonna build for this and when is it gonna happen. And then you have your program managers, and they oversee multiple projects and their interdependencies to make sure that these projects are aligned with the organizational goals. So they're more of the strategy and the alignment. So product managers is the what and the why, project managers are the how and the when, and program managers are about the strategy and alignment. So I hope this video helped you clarify the distinctions between product, project, and program management. If you have any comments, please place them below. If you haven't yet, please click the like and subscribe button. And as always, I'll see you soon.